Welcome everyone to another Results Now webinar. This is Jeff Herring, your host, and Duke, the giant puppy, and I are broadcasting live from our virtual studios here north of Atlanta, Georgia, in the foothills of the North Georgia mountains, along with Dr. Niall Nickel, Esquire, and many other things. Hey, Niall.
Hey there, and I'm live from my studio in the Tampa Bay area of Florida.
Welcome aboard, sir. Our topic today is the state of the social media union. Why almost everything you know about social media marketing is dead wrong and is hurting you. I'm going to give you strategies designed specifically so that you can go further, faster with social media. All right, now, Margaret's saying hi, Niall. So there you go.
Oh,
There is so much good stuff coming your way, folks. I've seen these slides. I've worked on these slides. I'm excited about this for you. And of course, at the end of the show, we're going to have a next success steps offer for you, which will come only if and only if we deliver on all our promises. And we'll check in to check in with you to see if we have. And it's such a deal. So, Alina says she's got her pen and paper ready. Alina has been with Niall and Jeff before, actually in person, in a mastermind after the last NAM. So we ought to do some more of those now, you know?
we do. I like that. And as a matter of fact, I have something for her anyway, but I'll have to contact her after this. Something I promised her a long time that, I finally got around to doing.
Awesome. So this is the state of the social media union. We're going to give you a big overview along with some specific strategies and tactics. You're even going to learn the difference between those two. We're going to start off. Oh, Margaret, that was. I love to hear that. She says, "Yeah, that mastermind was mind blowing." You know, Niall. Okay. We'll talk later. All right. Social media success. Learning from those who have already done it. Tell us about what this means, Niall.
Well, I've been doing social media training, and everybody knows me as the LinkedIn expert, and I've been doing LinkedIn now for, gosh, I guess it's approaching 10 years.
Wow.
And when I first got into that, one of the things that I noticed that there were a lot of really good, smart people on the different social media platforms, but they didn't have products. And it always drove me crazy that they didn't have products. I never could figure it out. And quite honestly, it took me a couple of years to figure it out. I should have just asked them. But one of the things that happens with social media, and it doesn't matter what platform you're talking about, as soon as you have something documented and you've got it sort of nice and simple and clear, that gives somebody the tactics of what they need to do, as soon as you've got that done, it changes.
Amen to
And
that. Almost before the ink's dry, right?
well, yeah. I look at LinkedIn today, and LinkedIn today other than the name LinkedIn and one other thing that we'll talk about when we get back towards the end of our time together here. When other than one thing, everything has changed other than the name of the platform, LinkedIn.
Wow.
And when LinkedIn first got started, a lot of the platforms that are big today just plain and simple didn't exist. Twitter didn't exist. Pinterest didn't exist. Instagram didn't exist. And then if you get to features, half of the features that are in most of the platforms today, not all, didn't exist just a year ago. And by the same token, there are key features that we used to use that don't exist anymore. They're obsolete. They're just not there. So there's new methods, there's new features, there's new platforms, and the bottom line is it's huge. In fact, quite honestly, it's overwhelming. Nobody can keep up with the rapidly changing environment in social media. And that's part of what we want you to walk away with today. First off, you're going to hear lots of new things all the time, and we may share a few of those new things today, but we want to take you beyond all the new things so that you have a success strategy that's lasting, not temporary.
I love the sound of that. All right, so we're going to talk about how to succeed in this rapidly changing world of social media. And I'm serious. I mean, sometimes before the ink's dried on something you've created and teaching people, you've got to change it. And part of what we want to do for you is do that work for you, keep up with it, and bring it back to you. So let's talk about strategy versus tactics, where you don't have to worry about the changes, okay? And why always focusing on tactics while you're always playing catch up. And Niall, you have a great way of telling us about the distinction between tactics and strategy. So please proceed, sir.
Well, everybody hears strategy and tactics all the time, and in the social media world, this is really critical. Strategy is the big overall master plan or goal that you're trying to achieve. For example, if you're on social media, you probably have one of a few goals. You want to get more followers. You want to increase your branding, or maybe you just want more SEO recognition. Whatever the goal is, that's a big strategy. Now, when you've got that strategy defined and you know what you're trying to accomplish, the how you accomplish it is the tactics. That gets to be a whole lot easier, except when we get into the next slide, which is tactics. Tactics are the things that change all the time, and the tactics are how we go about fulfilling our strategy. If our strategy is to get more engagement, and one of the things that I always say is the biggest strategy that you want to have in any of your social media platforms is you really want people that you're engaged with to come away saying, I want more. I want to know more. I'd like to, get to know this person better. The bottom line is you want to leave them wanting more. And so in simple terms, tactics are the actions you take to achieve the strategies and goals that you set. In fact, if you want to change strategies and goals, you probably could, but tactics are the actions, strategies are the big goals that you have. Does that make sense to everybody?
Give us a yay or
Um,
nay in the Q&A. Does that distinction make sense? Because it's a huge distinction. The distinction makes a big difference.
it's
Yay, yay.
huge.
Richard says absolutely. Thank you, sir.
It's huge in the social media world. In fact, it's critical. This is the difference between you being successful and you failing. And oh, by the way, this is what everybody does wrong. Everybody that's in the social media world,
Yep.
just about everybody that's in the social media world, they teach tactics. And that's all good and fine until everything changes, like it does all the time. So without strategy, if you don't have a big goal, your actions are meaningless. And without action, your goal is meaningless. So I changed the words there a little bit, but both are needed for success. So we're going to talk.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we do differently is we're always teaching strategies that will always work. Strategies are based on principles that will always work because they're marketing principles. Just like you guys have heard me talk a lot about offline principles I used when I had a private practice that I use now online because they're principles. All right. The tactics change. And as long as you can, and if you focus only on tactics, you'll be using stuff that got you here or helped you 5 years ago, but that aren't working now, and you're not able to shift because you don't know what strategy that tactic comes from. When you learn the strategies and stay with the strategies, you're allowed to shift or pivot. Every time I say the word pivot, I think of that great scene from Friends where they're moving the couch. Pivot, pivot, which is a reference to something we'll talk about in a little bit. With strategies, you're able to pivot as the tactics change. And Niall's right. Both are needed for success. It's not either or. Okay, so planning and structure has to do with being clear on those strategic objectives and what you need to focus on. so you don't get distracted. Just for kicks and giggles, do you ever go onto social media and get distracted? Give us a yay or nay in the Q&A, please. Um,
And I have to say, if you say no or nay, you're lying.
yeah, yeah, you're lying or you don't have a computer, one or the other. Yeah, you're right, Richard. Of course. All right. So, talk with us about this whole planning concept, focusing on your area of expertise, and what the heck monitoring and reviewing is. That sounds pretty technical and official.
Well, obviously, when we say being clear on your strategic objectives, on social media or with social media, so many people don't get clear on this, um, or they have multiple strategies that conflict with each other, and you really do have to stop and think about what you're doing and what is your number one objective that you want your social media efforts to produce. You're obviously you're trying to accomplish some things. You're making an investment in time. What do you want to produce with that investment? Then we could talk about how to do it. But so many people skip right by this. And this is just so critical because social media could be used for so many different things. And if you're not sure what you're doing, guess what? Nobody else will be either.
Oh, say that again. That's gold. Say that again.
So if you're not sure about what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, nobody else that you're communicating with or that's following you on social media will know either.
That's huge because if the receiver doesn't know, they're very, very likely, very, very unlikely to take any action that you want. Engage with you, sign up for something, buy something. So that's
We're,
huge.
we're always selling something, whether that's selling a smile, selling a laugh, selling a sign up for our program, selling a subscription to our email list, whatever it is, we're always selling something.
Oh my
And
gosh, I can hear the social media purists across the land rending their garments. As you say, we're always selling on social media, but it's flat out true, isn't it?
well, I mean, it's not just on social media; it's life.
Yes.
We're always selling something. Um, we hope that somebody else is buying it. The only difference is we don't always sell everything for a monetary exchange, and that's fine. But we're always selling something.
Sure.
And I want to drill that point home because if anybody that's listening has been through sales training, I'd be curious how many people have. There is a rule that you learn early on in sales training, and that is a confused mind never buys.
Yep.
So if you're not clear on what you're trying to accomplish and you're giving or leaving confusing directions or messages, guess what? The people that are engaged with you, they might still follow you, they might like you and all of that, but they're not going to buy what you're selling. Whether that's branding, whether it's an enrollment in a course, whatever it may be. So make sure you get clear on it. It is where if you were able to divide your time here, this is where you're going to spend most time. And if you spend most time here, just like we talked about some of the social media planning for our post in some things we did last year, Jeff, this is critical. If you spend your time here and you're very clear on it, everything else gets easy.
Exactly. And which is a good thing, right? All right. So what's this whole notion of scheduling and a planning calendar? You got a plan? What?
Well, and we've shared this with people. We've got it as a resource, and I'm sure we could share it out again. I haven't created a template for 2017 to be shared, but we could always plan to do that. But I have prior year templates that are clean and shareable that you could use to create basically a posting schedule. And I'm going to give you a specific example. Um, I when I look at the planning that I do for the content that I produce, right now I am 4 months ahead of the date when that content is going to be released. And
See,
that
you
sounds like
blow me away with this. You blow me away every time with this.
well, let's just think about it for more than just a few minutes. So, if I am getting ready to sell something, and I'll use the 4th of July because I actually have a 4th of July campaign coming up. I actually
Okay, so
want to.
just right there, okay, coming up, 4th of July is not next month, um, unless, of course, you're listening to this in June. But the point is, the man's thinking ahead, which I like.
Well, you have to, because if I'm not going to get surface level stuff, and I want to have things that match my objectives, that sort of meet the goal that I'm trying to meet, it takes a period of time to to gather the content that not only is relevant for the time frame, the 4th of July time frame, but it's relevant to my strategic objectives. So, in order to align my objectives with the calendar, and it's important to do that because you want to get into the conversation. This is an old Dan Kennedy thing, and for any of the Dan Kennedy people, you've heard it 1,000 times, and if you don't know who that is or you're unaware of it, you'll hear it now. You want to enter the conversation that's going on in the mind of your prospect, in the mind of your data consumer, your post consumer. So if it's getting ready for the 4th of July, they're thinking about all the things that go with the 4th of July. And, I want to get people thinking about that just a little bit. If you think about the 4th of July, and I want to see some comments on this because I want you to start thinking about it and see how this works. When you think about the 4th of July, what comes to mind? What are you thinking about when we talk about the 4th of July?
Barbecue,
Um, Barbecue's a big one. What else?
fireworks,
Fireworks,
freedom,
freedom.
parades,
Gosh, yeah, parade.
mom's borscht. Okay,
So
family.
family and food and gathering and all of that. So this is what people are thinking about. So the way that you get the most engagement and interaction with people is you're entering the conversation that they're having. So we're doing a 4th of July theme. We want to talk about these things, and you just brought this up: freedom, fireworks, family, food, independence. Um, now, um, Melanie, I like what you said. I go to the summer house, and my mom makes my favorite food, her borscht. Um, Gosh, what's the house like? Where's it located? Is the temperature maybe cool in the evening, or is it just sweltering hot? Um, I bet if you go to the summer house, there's some people that you only connect with during the summer, and so you start thinking about these things that go on, and you start thinking about the stories that make you smile, that make you feel good, uh, and now you're able to be real with people from your background, be transparent, they get to know you, but you're able to think about the message that you're trying to deliver, and as you're trying to deliver that message, you're tying your story in with it, but you're entering the conversation that's going on in their mind. Now, if you think about these things, and the reason I get at least 4 months out is you're going to scribble some notes on a planning sheet for the post that you've got coming up this period. And when you do that, you're going to start to think about the events that are special, that make you smile. Something's going to happen and it's going to trigger a memory, it's going to trigger a thought, and it's going to allow you to develop content that's relevant to your strategic objectives, that is very consistent with who you are and what you're about, lets people get to know you, you get to be transparent, but you get to enter the conversation that's going on in their own mind. You can't accomplish these goals that we just talked about if you're planning what your post is going to be for next week today. You just, nobody could do that. You don't have the time. Or you're going to spend literally hours trying to create something that you may or may not be happy with. You're going to feel like you're rushed with. But if you do it about 4 months out, you know what's before this. Excuse me. You know what's coming up after this. You're able to tie all of these things together. Now, what I just said, by the way, we're going to use in just a minute. So think about that. You know where you're coming from, you know what you're trying to say right now, and you know where you're going. That is a critical part of your scheduling, not just the fact that on this day, this is the post that I'm going to have. Where am I coming from? What journey have I just been on with my herd? Where are we going next? I know where I'm trying to go right now, or where I'm going the 4th of July, but where do we come from? Where are we now? Where are we going? Gets to be very, very critical for the conversation you're going to have, because now people feel like it's just a smooth, easy flow. They feel like this is just a good relationship. In fact, they're going to feel like they know you better and more deeply than they ever have before, and all you're doing is just being a little bit more thoughtful in your planning and your scheduling.
I
And I
like
know,
that.
Jeff, you and I talked about that quite a bit, but that's why my scheduling is so far out. In fact, I'm getting panicked right now because I've got a whole theme for my April post, literally going from the first to the last day, and while it's very complete right now, it's not as complete as I'd like it. So here I am at February the 9th, and I'm panicked because I don't have everything done through the end of April.
As opposed to most folks who will decide what they're going to post on social media probably tomorrow morning. Um,
Yeah,
huge,
and you've got to figure out where the images come from, and oh,
yeah,
by the way, sound clips and different things like that.
huge,
You can tie a lot of
huge
things.
strategic difference. Okay, just a little pop quiz here, folks. It's not a rhetorical. Answer in the Q&A. Is what Niall just explained a tactic or is it a strategy? Is it a tactic or is it a strategy? Strategy, 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 strategy. The strategy guides your tactics, Richard. There you go. Now, do we need to cover anything else on this page now before we move forward?
No, well, there's going to be two things that I mentioned that I scanned over. Well, one we didn't touch at all. Focusing on your area of expertise. Obviously, if um, you're trying to position yourself as an expert, don't be shy about that, but make sure that everything that you do should tie in with your strategic objective, but it's in your area of expertise. Um, and you may look at some of the posts after you've done them, and you may say that's really way outside. But if you have the flow that we talked about, it's going to be right in your wheelhouse. It's going to be right where you want it. But when
Linda,
you do,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say when you do this, the monitoring and review is just because you don't think it's, or you think it's a good idea, you've planned it, you're pretty excited about it, you think it's great. It might fall completely flat with your audience. You need to look at the analytics. Just because you think it's good really doesn't matter at all. Just because you like it really doesn't matter at all. How did it work? How did it resonate with your audience? And clearly you could look at all the social media analytics, but also look at the conversation, the
Mhm.
comments that are generated, because
Engagement.
sometimes you'll get more there than you will in the analytics.
I love it. We got two great questions. One from Tim. How do you pivot by scheduling that far in advance, or does scheduling that far in advance help you pivot? The second, it helps you pivot. Um, and I'm going to read yours, Tim, and then I'm going to read Linda's because they're similar. How can you start being 4 months ahead when you're just beginning to start your visibility? Okay. Here's the thing. Okay. Pulling out a calendar, Linda and Tim, you know what dates are coming up 4 months from now. Okay. There's spring, There's April Fool's Day. There's Income Tax Day. There's the beginning of summer. You can already start planning and sculpting around that. How many? Just give me a yes in the Q&A if you remember. One of the first webinars this year was how to make your content great again. Do you remember that? Yay or nay? Okay. That was planned. That title was planned a long time ago. And it doesn't matter what you believe politically, that phrase or a derivative of that phrase was already in the minds of everybody. So that's entering into the conversation, already going in people's heads and planning ahead with it. Okay. Now, so you can plan whether you're just starting out or whether you're a veteran, Linda, and the strategies help you pivot, Tim, because, and there's a whole lot of yeses, Margaret, Bob, Linda, Darrell, remembering that one. Um, it's like the fundamentals of any sport or any body of expertise. The more you know the fundamentals, the more you can do. My friends that are black belts, they say people are always saying, "Well, teach me a new technique. Teach me a new technique." You got to know the basics, the strategies before you can learn new tactics. And strategies help you pivot. Anything you want to add to those two, Niall?
No, that's sort of it perfectly. And by the way, the strategy that you're trying to accomplish is, as I said, it's the big goal. But um, and I like the way that we had mostly strategy when we asked that question. We got some tactic feedback
Mm-hmm.
because you're really talking about the strategy. You're trying to figure out how to engage with people, but tactically, the way you implement that could be completely different. But if you know what you're going to say, the how you end up saying it, how you end up presenting it, that almost becomes irrelevant. That becomes the easy part. Knowing what you're trying to accomplish and knowing the message that you want to deliver is the bigger part of that. And one of the things that I have found is I've been doing this as most of the people on here that have followed Jeff and I for a while now. I've been doing this for a while now.
Yep.
So when I get into certain times of the year, especially like one of my favorite times is Thanksgiving, because there's a lot of things that really resonate with me for Thanksgiving, and because I've made notes for the past 5 Thanksgivings related to what are these special events, what makes it special, what
Oh,
sort of conversations are in people's minds, what are in the minds of my audience. My audience tends to skew demographically a little bit older, so I could talk about certain things that become very meaningful to people that if I was talking to millennials may fall flat, but I could always figure out how to deliver that. For example, I'll give you one of the things that I always include in my Thanksgiving posting schedule. One of my favorite shows is the Turkey episode from WKRP. Well, I have a
sorry,
whole
I didn't know that
series.
was coming. I love that episode.
Well, but see what it just did to you, Jeff, and it does that because we're in the same generation. You'd be part of my demographics, so I don't have to say a whole lot about that, and I could get a huge response out of you very quickly. So there's a lot of things like that you do, and you might not think about it the first year around or the second year around, but as you continue to use the new schedule, think about where you're going, there's going to be themes that come back up because we live our life in circles. We go through the seasons, and there's only 4. We go through them again. So these things you'll find will help you greatly in the long run. I like that. My turkeys fly.
Yeah, I do too. It, it
Bob,
makes me
thank
it makes me think of something I'll say around Thanksgiving just to see who catches it. And I'll ask a question, on a webinar, and I'll be waiting for the answers, and I'll say something like, "I can wait. I'm not tired or proud." And I know who the old hippies are that tell me that's from Alice's restaurant. Okay, that happened at Thanksgiving, and they play on the radio at every Thanksgiving. Okay, Margaret, as God is my witness, I thought those turkeys could fly. Thank you, Mister. Thank
now,
you,
by
Mister
the way,
Carlson.
I just said just a little snippet. I didn't have to use much,
Yeah.
and I got everybody right there that quickly.
Yep.
That's
That's a
what you want
huge
to do
example of it.
with your social media. And if you happen to plan it and you think about where you're going, it makes it easy to go there, to get there,
And
and
so what we want
you
you to do, folks, is hold two notions in mind at the same time. Okay, the planning and the strategy ahead, and the notion that social media never stands still. Okay, you can do both at the same time. It's changing, but the strategies allow you to keep up. There's always new platforms. Niall talked about how LinkedIn is completely different from when it first started. There's new features. There's also obsolete features. That's why every few months you'll see me do stuff about where's the best place to put your content now. Okay. Now, the pressure that you guys feel, that we all feel, is to keep up with all of these changes. That's one of the reasons why we're doing the State of the Union address, and while we're doing a lot of what we do, we want to take the pressure off of you, and we'll go find out what those things are and bring them to you. So now this, okay, let me check in. Good stuff so far. Give me a yay or nay. Give us a yay or nay in the Q&A. Good stuff so far. Yes, 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 yes. Good, yay. Okay, good. Thanks, guys.
let
Just
me
guess.
ask a question too,
Okay.
Jeff. Do you see that you could do this fairly easily? Is this something that you could see yourself doing?
And there comes some more yeses. No, we're not going to slow down, Daryl. Actually, we're going to
No,
get
we're not
better
going to slow
because in the immortal words of Bachman Turner Overdrive, you ain't seen nothing yet. Okay. Now, Niall is going to show you, and I'm going to make pithy and relevant comments about how you can learn from experts that have had success in social media for over 65 years. How can you do that? Blogging's barely 10 years old. Okay. And what we can learn from them that applies to social media today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, there you go, Linda BTO.
down.
See, it happened again. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, right? Get this and apply this, and thou shalt be golden. Take it away now.
Now, um, so what are we talking about? 65 years old of social media, and I just pulled out a couple here. I Love Lucy. Guess what? They did weekly post. Okay, I changed the term weekly post, and they were episodic. They took you from somewhere to somewhere, and they weren't always just entertaining. Most of the time they were, but there's some messages to learn here. MASH, another one. 11 years worth of things there.
So
How many of
you
those?
had me at Mash. You had me there.
Well, I picked two of the bigger ones, not the longest running, but two of the biggest. In fact, the thing about I Love Lucy, she was on from 1951 to 1957. Guess what? It was on before most of us were around. Yet, how many have watched an I Love Lucy episode, love I Love Lucy, and interestingly enough, I Love Lucy merchandise today is some of the most collectible classic TV items, and it's still some of the highest selling.
Yeah.
And how many years ago is that?
Well, yeah, 60 something. And now, when I first saw this slide, I went to Wikipedia and looked it up because I thought he's got to be wrong. This show was on in the 60s because I remember it as a kid. I had no idea it was repeats. I thought it was brand new in the
Yeah,
60s. Okay, so
that's
incredible.
that'd be the
And
honeymooners. The honeymooners are a good one.
yeah,
Um,
there you go. How many of you can tell us? Just say yes or no in the Q&A. How many of you can tell us where you watched Goodbye, Farewell, Amen, the last episode of MASH, and who you were with? Okay. I was at my roommate's girlfriend's apartment with a bunch of other people. My girlfriend's name was Angela, and there was about 25 people there. How about you guys? Can you tell us where you were? Yep. Sue says her
no.
teenage daughter loves MASH and records all the episodes. You've raised her well. Okay.
Well,
Good.
let's get a little bit more modern for some people.
Yeah.
How about Friends?
Yeah.
I'd say Big Bang Theory, but it's still going on. So
But see, I just recently got into that, so for me, it's a good example. And Friends is a great example. I was having a conversation with Caleb, my youngest son, last night, who you know, Niall, and because he's gotten into Friends lately. We were watching a couple episodes, and I said, "Do you know that towards the end of this show, each one of those six people right there were getting $1 million an episode?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
pretty good ROI on your content."
Well, and you stop and think about if each one of them, six of them, were getting $1 million per episode. The show has to make a return on that investment that they're making. How much was the show making?
Yeah.
Hmm. So the reason that we bring this up is it's not to go down and take a walk down memory lane. We could go to the next slide, Jeff, but there's something to this. Um, all of these, and remember, I'm calling these posts because I want you to see them that way. They have something in common with our social media today. They really had a few goals. They created an engagement with an audience, and that engagement did a couple of things. It made the person that engaged with what they were watching say, "I want more. I can't wait for next week. Oh my gosh." They created social sharing moments. What do I mean by that? If we go back to I Love Lucy, that was the water cooler talk in the workplace. Did you see what happened? Did you see this episode?
Hmm.
They talk about it and they share it, and that's what everybody does on the episodes today.
The Walking Dead. I mean, come on.
Now, clearly, it entertains us, and we're not diving into the details of a social media post here, but you know how much I say you absolutely have to entertain people in your post. How many other things are these things creating that are common with what you do in your social media posts? And I love what's going on now with all of the you know uh, episodes that you guys are talking about. There's a lot of things going on there. I like appointment TV, Tim. That's an interesting comment. Uh, but there's a lot of things that our social media posts have in common. But as we look at these social media posts, there's a bigger takeaway here. This is what we could learn from the experts that have been doing this for more than 65 years. And guess what? These people are literally paid tens of millions to hundreds of millions of dollars to do this stuff. They're pretty smart. Uh, their success wasn't just simply good luck. They had a strategy and a plan. Every single one of the shows, not only that we listed here, but that we've talked about here, followed a formula, one formula. And that formula has been used for thousands of years, literally. We're talking about 65 because it was broadcast media. We're comparing it to social media. But that formula is known as the monomyth. You've heard me talk about this before. Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. That's not the name of the book, but that's what the formula is called. Is the simple formula that all of these follow. Now, what is the formula?
But before we dive into that, let me just set the stage a little bit and
Go
and,
ahead.
and talk about a common phenomenon that people have. All right? Just really quickly, type the title of a movie in to the Q&A that even if you own it on DVD or Blu-ray or an old VCR or whatever, even if you own it and have it, you're flipping the TV around, that movie's on, you are going to watch it. Okay? Type that in. For me, it's Margaret says, "Oh brother, where art thou?" For you, it's me. Outlaw Josie Wales is one. Field of Dreams for Janice. Yeah.
Independence Day. I like that.
Independence
Sabrina.
Day. Sabrina the remake. The intern, All About Eve, Caddyshack. Okay. Now, Steve, even Caddyshack. Okay, a funny movie. All right. There is a theme from what we're going to go into deeply here in a minute in all of those movies. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Field of Dreams, Independence Day, Outlaw Josie Wales, all of these. And that theme is redemption. Those are all redemption movies. Every single one of them is a redemption movie in some way. Okay. Now, I want to set the stage for this because you guys, this is just so cool. What's coming? Go for it now.
So this is the detailed hero's journey. This is sort of going through the whole thing. Now, you don't have to go through each and every one of these 12 steps. In fact, what generally happens, and I've got a simplified version of this that we'll review in just a minute, but typically you get one or maybe two of the steps in each one of these sort of three acts, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, or Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, whatever it may be. Now this is all one post, this is all one episode, but you go from something that's very familiar, the known world, somebody could relate to. You take them to a place that it's different for them. It's an unknown world, something that maybe they can't relate to, but they related to you as you started on this journey into the unknown world, whatever that may be. And that unknown world, as I said, doesn't have to be a different world. It's just some unfamiliar area they're not familiar with. And then you bring them back, as you said, Jeff, to the resurrection, the redemption in the final thing. So this is Joseph Campbell's sort of detailed breakdown. He did his doctoral thesis on this, and it's become a cornerstone that people use because he broke it down into really 12 steps, very elemental. And every movie that you see, every sitcom that you see, whether it's comedy, whether it's not comedy, follows this formula. Now, if we go to the next step, we're going to make it just a little simpler. Or a little more simple. That may be better English. You still there, Jeff?
I am still there.
Go ahead to the next slide.
Okay. There we go.
So, what we're talking about in that journey is a story arc. Now, there's a couple of things that are critical here. It's an extension or extended continuing storyline in an episodic storytelling media, such as television, comic books, comic strip, board games, video games, films. We could insert social media here because what you want to do is, you heard me say earlier, if you have your planning schedule, you know what the strategy is, you know where you're coming from, you know what you're trying to accomplish now, and you know where you're going. Guess what? You just created an episode and you're taking people on the journey. This is where we came from. This is where we are. This is what's going on. And at the end, where are we going next? And that becomes critical because what you're able to do is you're able to take people that connect with you from the one connection point and you're able to bridge it to where if they really liked what they saw, they could go back and find more, but also they get excited about what's coming next. So that's the story arc, and let's go to the next slide, Jeff. Remember I said I was going to take Joseph Campbell's thing and we're going to make it simple. This is the story arc and the hero's journey, but this is sort of a simple thing in percentages. Where we are, where did we come from, I should say, that would be better. I've got, where were we? You're not going to spend a lot of time there, but this is where we were, and now you've got the headline, the teaser, and the opening, the intro. Just a small portion. Now, remember the three acts, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3? If you happen to go back to where we were, you don't have to do this, Jeff. But the trouble, this is where everybody understands what's going on. It's a place that they're at. They can understand. The muddle, what we did, how we sort of journeyed through this and the obstacles we had to overcome. That's part 2. We come out of it, and somehow we've overcome it. There's a redemption. Uh, Most of the time, that's a successful redemption. Sometimes it could be a failure, and you could get the same redemption out of the failure. And then one of the things that many of the movies and sitcoms do is they've got a kicker. They've got a twist. It's the surprise that you weren't expecting. And then you close out with where we're going. How are we going to apply this? What are we going to do next? So, literally, every one of the movies that we've talked about, every one of the tens of thousands of sitcoms that we've talked about, they follow this same simple formula. And guess what? That same simple formula has been found to be so effective, people resonate with it. It's something natural inside of us. As I said, it's been used for thousands of years. If you want to be successful, you want to be able to follow the formula. And so now, if
what you just said is huge, okay? And it's so easy to try to get away from that and try to do it our way or whatever, blah, 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 okay? If you want to be successful, follow the formula, okay? This stuff has worked for all these years, okay? And it worked in story form, sitting around the campfire, telling stories, and then in books, and then all this visual stuff came along. Think about movies, okay? When I was a counseling psychologist and was learning about how to do hypnosis, the trainers, one of the things they taught us was that one of the places people go into trance all the time and pay for it is at the movies. Because think about it. You're sitting still. You're not moving very much. You're looking straight ahead. You're focused on something, and it's all visual, okay? And so much of the internet, whether video or not, is visual. Now you add in all the social media that has visual components to it, and folks, following this is just gold. Margaret's asking, could a blog post follow the same formula? Yes, Margaret, absolutely. Any kind of content.
And it's not only could it follow the same formula, it should follow the same formula.
GMTA, great minds think alike. I was just thinking that.
Any ideas how to do this with Facebook? That's going to be a longer conversation that we have. What we're dealing with tonight, really, and we're going to wrap up with a couple of real quick things with some of the platforms, but what we're really talking about, Richard, is the strategy as opposed to tactically how we'd implement this, for example, with Facebook. So we're dealing with strategy tonight. We want you to really think about the strategy before we get into the tactics of how we'd implement it on any one of the platforms.
But Richard, Richard, your question is a great segue into the next slide, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in State of the Union, we want to give you we want to give you some quick updates with some of the main platforms. I didn't cover every platform, and I'll tell you why. Some of the platforms have been fairly static over the past year or so. Facebook has made a lot of changes. One of the biggest changes is integration with Instagram and Instagram stories. We'll talk more about that when we dive into it. But get this, and this is surprising to me. Facebook is getting ready to roll out. It says testing here, but they're actually getting to roll out mid-roll ads. Now this says a couple of things. First off, let me tell you, because a lot of people may not know what a mid-roll ad is. In fact, how many people don't know, just out of curiosity?
I'm one. I was going to ask.
Okay, I'll start to answer the question. When you have a video on anything, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, there are two types of ads that get inserted, and that, by the way, this is true in sitcoms too. You get pre-roll ads that are there before the content gets started. You have mid-roll ads that are inserted midway into the content. Now, by the way, we've talked about this from a tactical point of view when we create posts in the way that we create links midway through the post in multiple areas. Top, middle, bottom, and maybe a few other places. It's critical.
And for those of you that have been around a while, okay, what would you call what did you used to call a mid-roll ad in the middle of a movie? What was that called? Your intermission. Yeah, that's right, Margaret. Intermission. Yeah, Bob says a
So,
pain. Yeah, that too.
interestingly enough, video has become such a critical component of Facebook, and they engage so many people so quickly in the videos, they're finding out that they don't consume the ads in all of the other places that Facebook has them. So they're getting ready to put them mid-roll in videos that you might post, interestingly enough. And now you could listen to live audio content on Facebook. So you could actually do, if you create podcast content, you could actually post it now on Facebook, and it might be an interesting thing. Facebook is just starting a journalism project. This is an offshoot of all of the fake news issues that were present during the campaign and post-campaign. They're trying to find out a better way to deal with that, and so that's getting started. So you're really starting to see some major changes in Facebook. In fact, Facebook's starting to mature. And Daryl, I like that you say obnoxious on the mid-roll ads, because everybody, 100% of everybody, thinks mid-roll ads are horrible. They hate them. They're obnoxious. Interestingly enough, mid-roll ads get the best performance of any ads that are out there. So we might hate them, however, we interact with them more than other ads, and so guess what? They'll be coming. You want to go to the next one, Jeff, so we don't run out of time? So YouTube might look the same. They've changed their algorithms.
I don't have any appointments until 7 in the morning, so I mean we got plenty of time.
I don't get home soon. I might be shot from my family. YouTube's announced a subscription music service, so now you could get all of your music content on YouTube without commercials or anything like you can with Spotify or many of the other platforms now. Even iTunes has it, and Amazon Prime has it with Prime Music. So you're starting to see much more music on the social media platforms. YouTube went to YouTube Red. I don't know how many people are familiar with that, but YouTube will now allow you, if you pay a fee, to get ad-free videos. They'll allow you to download the videos for offline viewing, and they'll give you the uninterrupted service. So you're starting to see, and if you stop and think about all of this, what they're trying to do is they're trying to keep you on the platform longer. So let's go to the next one. And
good old LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, 90% of the platform has changed. As a matter of fact, if you look at it today, it looks dramatically different than it did even 6 months ago. In fact, it looks dramatically different than what it did 2 months ago. Everything has changed. And I truly mean everything. Except the single greatest value that LinkedIn provides to anybody hasn't changed at all. And if you've listened strategically to the way that I've talked about using LinkedIn in the past, it's the SEO value of the profile and what you can do with that. It's still there. It still works great. Everything else has changed in a big way. So I'm sure we'll talk more about that. Twitter has been the most stable of the platforms, although I think we're going to see some major changes this year. They've been talking about it for just about a year now. We're going to see it go beyond 140 characters. I don't know what that limit's going to be. They really haven't talked about it. Everybody thought that they'd be beyond 140 characters now. One of the things that they're doing is they're doing Twitter Moments, and I don't know if you're familiar with Twitter Moments, but Twitter Moments finds the early trending tweets that haven't gathered a lot of attention yet, and it allows you to put those tweets in your feed. So it helps you, but it helps them.
Say that three times fast. Early
Yeah.
trending tweets without sounding
So
like Elmer Fudd.
so literally, they're able to predict within less than a few minutes of a tweet's posting if it's going to trend, and they're very accurate in those predictions. So when they find those, they now put them in sort of a menu that you could look through. You could not only consume, but you could put into your feed to get more attention, more focus, more momentum yourself. And the one thing about Twitter that's been there for a while, but it's so critical to say, is if you're not including at least an image in your tweet, you're failing.
Yep.
Maybe video. So it's sort of critical to do those things.
And
I think Instagram. Instagram, I think most of you may know, some of you may not, is it's a fully owned Facebook platform. And they left Instagram alone for a long time. We're now starting to see sort of the integration to be more consistent with the Facebook platform. It's still a completely different platform. It has a different look and a feel, but you know, the comments that are there, it allows you to share directly to Facebook or to Messenger service, which is the Facebook Messenger service. It allows you to save posts if you want to come back and view them, or there's something that resonated with you want to see again. And it also allows now for video shares, just like Facebook. So you're starting to see Instagram get a lot closer to Facebook, and I suspect as this happens, we're going to see more Instagram type stuff in Facebook, more Facebook type stuff in Instagram, and we're probably going to see Instagram go away.
no, no. I like how they're separate because there's no clutter on there like on Facebook.
Well, we may see it stay the same. As long as they could get the ad revenue, that will be the critical thing.
It always is, isn't it?
It always is. So again, if you know the strategy, the fact that it goes away, does it bother you? I mean, I know you might like it, but, and I'm not saying it's going away anytime soon. I'm just starting to look at the tea leaves, and I think I'm seeing some writing on the wall coming up.
Well, you're usually pretty good at noticing that, so I'm going to pay attention, but pray it doesn't change. But you know what? This is a good example of what we're talking about, folks. This is the kind of stuff we're going to keep up with and let you know about. Okay? So now, what we're going to do is tell you about some next success steps, with your permission, of course. And then Niall has a really great social marketing genius tip coming up. Okay? So, but first we got to ask you this question, and we want a yay or nay in the Q&A. Have we delivered on what we told you we would do? Yes or no, please? Big yeses coming in. Bob gives us a Gollum yes. Yes.
While we're getting some of the questions too, Pinterest is very good for marketing. It's just there's not a lot of changes that have occurred there, so it was one of the ones that I left out in the State of the Union.
Although we will go into it. Now, would any of you say this is better than some social media trainings you've paid for with others? What you got here today? Yes, yes, more than. Well, thank you, guys. All right, so here's what we're going to introduce to you. Right? Drum roll, please. Social content, social content insiders circle. Okay? This was a big overview. You got pieces of what's going on in there. Let's tell you about it. Right? So here's what you're going to get in the place for social marketing profit, where we do all the work so you can go further faster. And by all the work, we mean keeping up with all these changes, keeping you abreast of the situation, Daryl, thank you. This is the best presentation I've yet attended. Yeah, and there will be. Daryl, thank you. We'll make sure you get that by sometime tomorrow. All right, so here we go. You're going to get a monthly webinar training in the latest profitable strategies and tactics. So once a month, we will spend hour, 90 minutes with you, teaching you the latest strategies and the tactics that are working. Put this in your calendar. The first one is Monday night, March 6th at 7:30. Okay. Now, each month we're also going to do a monthly Q&A and spotlight consults. Okay, mastermind Q&A and spotlight consults. All the RNICers that are here can type in about the value of doing those. This is where we take your questions in advance and also live, and we don't just answer them. We build your business around the answers. And spotlight consults are my word for hot seats, where we focus on one person on a particular part of their business, and the group, the mastermind, and Niall and I, man, what a triple combination, help you build your business. Okay, so basically what that means is we meet twice a month. Okay, the very first mastermind Q&A spotlight consults will be on February 20th. Okay, Monday, February 20th at 7 p.m. Now, that's not all. You get your private members area with exclusive social marketing training. So you'll have the replay of everything we do. Plus, you'll have other trainings that we do that we put in there just for you guys. And a private Facebook mastermind, 24/7 access to brainstorming and masterminding. And the way that we do these groups, um, it's some of the most generous people in the world in there. Um, but I love getting up in the morning and seeing that people have asked questions during the night, and they've all gotten supported from all over the world. If you want to ask Niall or I something specific, you use our name, so it highlights and alerts us. This is where you ask your questions in advance for the mastermind Q and A's as well. And again, the first date for the first um, mastermind Q&A and spotlight consults is February 20th. The first date for the first webinar training is March 6th. We're going to do these on Monday nights around 7 or 7:30. Okay. So now let's keep it simple. Okay. No big sales pitch, no big price drop, no big all that kind of stuff. We don't even have a sales page yet, folks, because you got us here. So why use a sales page when you can ask us questions, right? Okay. All of this for only $27 a month at that link right there, jeffherring.com/monthly. And Niall, if while I'm talking, if you can type that into the chat, that would be cool. And then if you want to save yourself some money, you can do it for $250 a year. And there's the link, jeffherring.com/yearly. Yes, you heard that right. You get both of us as your mentors, as your coaches in social media. You get to meet with us twice a month. You get to talk to us at any time in the Facebook group. You get a complete members area for only $27 a month. You're going to spend more than that getting a lousy meal at a chain restaurant out somewhere. Okay. And if you want to dive in for the year and get a significant discount, okay, it's $250 a year. Those are the links. Niall's dropping them into the chat box for us. And let's see. Here is your genius tip. Okay. And it's a little bit of an assignment for you. You have to actually click on something to go find this article. And it is a great article that Niles found for us called 6 Phases of Growth Hacking. There's so much in here. There's so much gold in here. Oh my goodness, gosh. Now, we've done our very best as we've gone through the show here to answer your questions. If you've asked one we've not gotten to, okay, all you got to do is type it back in. It just means that you guys have been super interactive and we just haven't gotten to it yet. Okay. Now, again, when you click on those links, you're going right to the buy button because we do not have the sales letter up yet because you've got us here. Okay. We'll add that later. Now, one more thing, Margaret. Now just put both those links Oh, you want the link to the article in the chat? We can do that too. I'll do that now since I got it right here in front of me.
I'm
Um,
typing it. Go
oh, are
ahead.
you? Okay, never, go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, cool. I forgot something. Okay, here is a soup. These are early bird prices, by the way. These will not remain this way. Now, all of the insiders, um, you guys get a special deal, right? And so that those links are both in your Facebook group, the Results Now Insider Circle. Those links are in your Facebook group, and those links are in a special email I sent you this afternoon. Okay, so those of you that aren't insiders get a better deal, which is something you need to consider. Right now, for everybody that comes on board from this webinar, here is your special bonus. Right, you get Niall and Jeff's course on social content secrets for free. It's a 197 course. Okay. Those of you that already bought it a while back are going, what, wait, wow. You know, we'll take care of you and give you some special treatment. Um, but it is the bonus for you guys tonight. Okay. Um, Niall says, notice the Nickel Tips custom URL. We will talk about this. Yes, I have one of those too called Jeff Tips. .co, and it is a good thing to do, and you'll learn how to do that. Okay, so let's see. Daryl was asking, is there a link we can give them? Gosh, we're treating these people good. To some of that editorial calendar stuff we talked about, Niall, or is that
We've
something separate?
we've got it in one of the courses, and I think we've got it on one of the Facebook group pages. But I could find. I'm not going to update the 2017 one. It takes too much time. But I will share the 2016 with either in the group or with you, Jeff, and we could send it out to everybody, the
Okay,
link,
yeah, on the replay or whatever.
because it's really, you'll get the idea from the calendar. And the calendar is a Excel workbook. I'm probably going to actually put it into an app that you could use because I think it would be more useful. But
Oh,
bottom line,
Niall, that would be golden. That would be
it's
very cool.
useful for a lot of things because so many of the dates change. Uh, some dates don't. Like, interestingly enough, uh, and I'll ask the question. Uh, Elena says it's in social contact secrets, content secrets. It would be. Do you know what today is? At least the biggest national blank day today. And today's National Blank Day. Fill in the blank. Do you know what it is?
No, I don't. What is it?
I'm curious if anybody else
Okay,
does.
yeah. Anybody know what day it is without Googling it? Today's National Blank what day? No guesses?
And then I'll tell you a funny story about that.
Okay.
No answers. Crickets. It is National Pizza Day.
And I didn't have one today. I'm very sad.
And KFC announced a new pizza that is based on a fried chicken crust. I kid you not.
KFC does pizza? Oh my God. I know that they and Pizza Hut are owned by the same company, but oh my God. Susan says it's also
Somehow I
National
don't think
Pastry Day. There you go. Ooh, Susan, talking about National Pastry Day makes me want to jump in the car and go hit a Panera Bread because they have my favorite cinnamon roll in the world. But I won't.
so. The calendar that we have basically has every day of the year. There's something on it, and so you're able to theme what you're trying to do, the objectives that you have. You're able to theme it around what you're doing.
So, congratulations to Sharon who is in and lots of other people. I'll try to get to all the. Oh, Susan was on the wrong month. Okay, so it's not National Pastry Day. Okay, I feel better. What month is it in, Susan? Um, all right, Michael, welcome aboard. There's so many coming in, I may not be able to get out to all the names, but I'm going to try to. And those of you that are coming on board wisely, let us know what you're wanting to get out of it. Remember, the first Mastermind Q&A and Spotlight Consults will be on February 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern. The first webinar training will be on March 6th at 7:30 p.m. And we'll do these on Monday nights. Now, if you can't make it, or you know you're not going to be able to make one, that is just fine. Okay. A lot of people don't make the live because they know it's going to be in their members area the next day, and also will be in their Facebook group. And in the Facebook group is designed so that you can ask questions in advance and get them answered even if you're not there. Okay. Linda's sharing that a few days ago was National Fettuccine Alfredo Day. All right. Alina only did 6 months of an editorial calendar. Good. Cool. And so it's not just the national known holidays you can play off of and market off of, folks. It's all these other days. Margaret's saying February is fabulous Florida strawberry month. Now, I'm going to share something about Florida that I bet you don't even know, Niall. Okay? There is a city south of Tallahassee on the way to the coast. Most people that go from Tallahassee down to St. George Island go through this city. The city is called Sopchoppy. Okay? We used to say that they had a university down there called the Sopchoppy Higher Institute of Technology. You can figure that out. Okay? However, and I am not making this up, every year in April, they have in Sopchoppy, Florida, their annual Worm Grunting Festival. Okay? I am not making this up. They have a
I actually
worm grunting queen, um, and it is a big deal. So, you know,
now,
build,
Jeff, you
build
shared
some
this.
marketing around that.
You have to share what worm grunting or grumping is.
I've forgotten, but hang on a
Oh
second.
my goodness!
I'll tell you, because I can look it up. Worm.
I'm seeing if anybody else knows.
If I remember correctly, it's making grunting noises near the surface to make the worms come up.
Well, I think you're half right.
Okay.
It's actually getting the worms to come up out of the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. See, I told you I wasn't making this up. I wouldn't steer you guys wrong. Linda Halliday, welcome aboard. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So you can build your marketing around anything in your editorial calendar, right? And so what I want you to think about, okay? Um, Margaret thinks Mike Rowe did a dirty job showing the Worm Glutton Festival. I mean, come on. I mean, some people, this is a huge yearly pilgrimage for them. They go to the Worm Glutton Festival, and then they go down to the coast to eat at Angelo's seafood restaurant. I know it sounds weird. Angelo's, it's like Krabby's Italian food, and then head to the coast. I mean, it's a thing. Okay, but the advantage of having this editorial calendar is, the less thinking you have to do, the more thinking you can take out of this helps your planning. And so if you know there's a certain holiday coming up, you can build your marketing around that. And I mean, come on. Um, yeah, they do make a lot of money, Margaret, at the Worm Glutton Festival. But it's fun, it's playful, it's engaging. You can look up the craziest stuff and celebrate it. There is a local commercial, Milton Martin Honda. Okay, they have a sister company, Milton Martin Toyota, where I get cars from. Um, but the guy he starts off every interview commercial, okay, with talking about what day it is nationally. It's National something something day, and then he transitions that story into whatever sale they're having. Okay, you could do the exact same thing, which is a great use of an editorial calendar. Is it not, Mr. Nickel?
It absolutely positively is. It makes life so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely, Linda. Especially using some of the unusual national days for content creation. Absolutely, like with your grandmother's bowling story. I mean, there's got to be a national bowling day, right?
Oh, there absolutely is.
And I bet you there's a bunch of different bowling days, like National Left-Handed Bowling Day, or I don't know, probably some politically incorrect bowling days, and um, all kinds of stuff. So why not? Kathleen, the link to the offer is right in the chat. Um, and Niall, you take over and let me put it back in, and I'll send it to
Uh,
Kathleen particularly.
One of the things that I'll tell you guys real quick about the article link that I gave you there, we went over that real quick. But that's from a gentleman who's actually a good friend of mine. His name's Dennis Vu. You may not have ever heard of Dennis before, but I absolutely positively guarantee you you have been involved in one of his social media campaigns, whether you know it or not.
Wow.
He probably runs more social media campaigns for major corporations than anybody else in the country. He was the senior engineer at Yahoo Search when Yahoo was the biggest guy on the block, obviously after AOL and before Google. All of his engineers that left Yahoo when Yahoo Search sort of started to go away went to one of two places. They went to Google or they went to Facebook. So guess what? He's well connected in the engineering community with the engineers that actually do everything at either Google or Facebook in their search areas. And when he says something, people listen. He really gives very, very, very great content. In fact, by all means, connect with him. He's a very friendly guy. You could tell him I sent you there. But this article that we're pointing to is really on point with what we talked about today, but it goes into a lot more detail, and it goes into detail specifically in the Facebook area. I think you'll find it extremely valuable. So I'll give that little plug for it. And guess what? It's free.
And see, that to me is a huge example of what we're talking about here, folks. As part of our job, finding the good stuff, bringing it and delivering it unto you, as well as keeping up with the changes and what's working and delivering that unto you. A great example is, again, time for a yay or nay in the Q&A. How many of y'all remember e-zine articles? Just type in a yes or no. And how big I used to be on teaching about that. E-zine articles. Eileen remembers. Yep, and some others, okay? Um, they made some changes that killed their traffic. Uh, and they used to be my main place. A good part of my business is built on free traffic from that site. Years ago, not anymore. Okay? And now the number one place to put that kind of content is LinkedIn. And it's a bagazillion times better. That's a real number, by the way, bagazillion. Um, that's a big example of what we're talking about. Paying attention to when things shift so you don't have to, and so you don't get caught doing what used to work that no longer does. See, here's yeah, that's it, Sue. Here's the thing about three types of trainers online. Okay, the first type is somebody that's read an article or been to a workshop. They've never done it, but they're going to teach you about it. Okay, for that you follow my RLH prescription, which means run like hell. Um, the second type is people that have done it and they're going to teach you about it, but they're no longer doing it. So they're going to teach you stuff that got them to where they were, and maybe if you're lucky, to where they are now. Approach with caution. You may be able to learn something. The third type, the type I invest in, and the type that Niall and I are the ones who have done it, are showing you how to do it, and are still doing it every single day. Okay, that's what you need, because then you're not caught with egg on your face and doing the same old that's not working anymore, right? You get to know the stuff that's working as currently as that day. I mean, there's stuff I know I teach. I know you do too now that we found out that day, and we're sharing it with you. Okay, because we're on the leading edge. We know what trends to look for. I mean, Niles taught LinkedIn stuff about LinkedIn. Um, and so Eileen's asking, are you going to do basics of using the social media? Yeah, absolutely. You'll know the basics and the insider strategies, Eileen, of the big six platforms. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Pinterest. Okay. Um, Eileen, another good question. How many different platforms do you recommend using? I've got an answer for that, Niall, and then I want to hear yours.
Okay.
Um, there's the big six, right? Okay, and there's always going to be more. Some will die off. Remember MySpace, um, and some will come and fill in blanks. All right. I think it'll wear you out to try to have a strong presence on every one. I usually recommend picking three and doing real well on those. Right now, I'm playing with four: Facebook and Facebook Live, LinkedIn Publishing, Instagram, and YouTube. Right. So you got to narrow it down. What do you think now?
Um, I say start with one, but use the templates that we've got, because at that point in time, it's easy to expand to two, it's easy to expand to three, it's easy to expand to four.
Ooh, I like that answer.
And at that point in time, I will say that you continue to go on the platforms and you evaluate, you sort of do split testing or A/B testing, what's giving you the greatest results. Because as you talked about, Jeff, and I know that I fought with you on this for a while. Some people on here will be interested to hear this. You were sold on e-zine articles, and you couldn't see how you really should devalue what you were doing on and demote what you were doing on e-zine articles. And I told you it was a waste of time. But you were smart, and you tested it, and you found out that you, in fact, could get much better results by not doing as much or anything on e-zine articles. Not that you still don't get traffic from it, but you don't get traffic like you do in other places. So
Yeah.
I recommend dabbling in all of them. Do what you could manage to do well. Sometimes you're going to hire out some of that, and that's fine too. But make sure you're looking at the metrics and don't continue to do it because you've done it in the past and it worked for you. Is it working for you today?
That is the question. All right, folks, we're going to wrap this show up. Thank you for hanging out with us. A lot of places you could be online, and you chose to be with us, which we always value. Now, the links you want to go to are on your screen. We're going to leave the screen up for a while. They're also in your chat box, so you don't even have to type it in. You can just click on the links. Okay, you got two options: $27 a month for 2 meetings a month, your members area, your Facebook group, the leading edge training from Niall and I. Or if you want to save a bunch, like a lot of people have, dive in for a year at $250 a year, and you're done. You don't even have to worry about any more payments for the whole year. Okay. Now think about that, folks. That $250 a year is less than a very popular price online, $297, for a training or a course that you'll never even hear from the people again, right? Except when they want to sell you something. With this, you're going to have like regular training, regular live content, and regular live contact in Facebook group with Niall and I. And this is a huge deal. It's not going to stay like this forever. The replay will be available by tomorrow morning. We'll get it out to you, and you have a few days to come on board. And everybody that comes on board from this particular training gets the social content secrets course too. So everybody that's already on board is smiling. So Niall, any final thoughts?
The big thing that I'd say is, one of the things that I know is I know that I'm surprised all the time, and there's new things that pop up.
Uh-huh.
So if you see something that pops up that you're curious about, or something that you heard somewhere, ask the question in the group, because it may be valuable to all of us. While I know a lot, and some of what I know is different than what Jeff knows, which is why we partner together so well. We neither one of us claim to know everything. So by
Nope.
all means, ask the question. Don't assume that we know it.
And if we don't know it, we'll go find out. Okay.
We
We're,
absolutely will find out. We do know the people to go find the right answers from. So if we don't know the answer, we know where to find the answer, and that's part of the value.
that's well said, and that's very, very true. So, folks, again, thank you for being here. A lot of places you could have been, and you've chosen to be with us, and we're always honored by that. Go get this stuff. There are the two links right on the screen. They're also in your chat box. And as always, go use this stuff because it flat out works. And we will catch you on the 20th as we launch this really, really cool community that we're building. All right. Now, thank you, sir. Once again, enjoyed it. And folks, we'll catch y'all soon.